Let's start with a Tottenham update. Let's look at some of the transfer news that has been boiling around Spurs over the last 24 hours. We'll start with Tom Barkley from The Sun. He says, I understand that Spurs are keen to secure a quick deal for long-term target Conor Gallagher this summer, as Ange Postecoglou hopes to get his business done early and Chelsea's PSR pressures could make it happen. It's a story that just won't go away, isn't it, in terms of Conor Gallagher. He also mentions that Spurs hope they could get him for as little as £40 million. Obviously, Chelsea, the rumours are that they are in big financial trouble when it comes to the profitability sustainable ruling from the Premier League. There are also talks that the rules are changing this summer, but from next season they're going to remain the same. When it comes to Conor Gallagher, is 40 million a good deal for you? Do you think it's worth doing at that kind of price?
Because he's got a high ceiling, I would say he's worth 40 million. But I think the move for him is to go to a team in and around where they are now, and ball out and be the man. Can he come to a top 4 team and improve that team? I'm not too sure. You know,
I think he's. Yeah,
is he better than
Sarr or Bentancur?
Does he walk right into this team right now?
I don't think he does, but I think he's a bit more offensive than those players, and maybe he gets into a bit more goal-scoring positions than those players.
More energy.
And he also has a lot of energy. He's a really great presser. I think Andrew would love that side of his game as well. And I think second half of this season, he's really starting to score goals now. He's always getting those positions, but his finishing's been a bit off. But recently, he's definitely started. I think, I remember Villa in the FA Cup, he scored. Palace away, he scored. Recently against Man United, he scored as well. So he's definitely starting to score a lot more consistently. So he's starting to put those chances away now. And if he can do that, be that kind of midfielder who makes those late runs into the box, like if it's between him, Bentancur and Sarr for a chance to fall to any of them in the box, I'd rather it fall to Gallagher than either of those two.
If anything, that's the one criticism of Sarr, is that he doesn't score enough. The good thing about when Andrew's at Celtic, his kind of 2-8s, if you want, like they would crush and win the ball back high, and we haven't really done that enough.
Well, you say that. I think we're top of the league for like regained in the opposition half.
Right, fair enough. I mean, Sarr, in the early start of the season, I think we were doing it a lot. So maybe a lot of the stats come from them. But lately, we've not really been putting that foot down high up the pitch. And that's where someone like a Gallagher come in and really improve us there.
But obviously the question that always plagues this kind of transfer is, will Gallagher want the move? Will Chelsea deal with Tottenham? All these different things. The fact of the matter is Chelsea might have to deal with Tottenham because of their troubles.
But do you want that? Do you want a player coming because the club has to sell him? Can you imagine him wanting to come to Spurs?
And you've
That's
seen
the thing, it doesn't really sit well.
And I agree with that. And you've seen it even recently, like players who kind of make that move where not because they really want it, but because the club want to sell and it doesn't really work out. And they end up even going back or moving on very quickly. And you don't want that to be the situation either. He's a Chelsea fan. He grew up around Chelsea.
True blue his whole life,
So is Spurs the kind of move he wants to be making? That's a decision he has to make, I guess. That's the one thing I think is the main thing that puts doubt for me whether this deal will ever happen, which we've said a million times. But I can understand Tottenham wanting it. I can understand Chelsea wanting to sell. I can't quite see Gallagher wanting to come.
Because
That's
those
the
are
one
like
thing.
the corporate entities of the game. They want to get the deal done. But he's a player. He's about heart and soul, just like the fans are. It's like, can you put it together and make it work? Obviously, it is their job, but you don't want a player thinking like that. Oh, it's a job. Wherever I go, I have to go. It's like, no, you want them to have that heart and soul of the team. I don't know. For me, there's no smoke without fire, and it doesn't seem to be going away. But is it not going away because it makes for a good headline, or is it actually true?
Like if Man United come in last minute and sub him the cash, is he just going to go there?
And I think he would make. I think their midfield is a state. He could improve them. They don't have legs in the midfield. He could be a better signing for them.
So that's the kind of feeling I have. Look, but we'll have to wait and see. As we say, the story is always there. It never really goes away. Yeah. So there's surely something to it. Next one, we're going to be talking about Pablo Torre. And according to El Noticias, which is a Spanish publication, they're saying that Tottenham have now submitted a €30 million bid for Barcelona midfielder Pablo Torre with a view to the player joining the club ahead of next season. Barcelona have not yet responded to the proposal from Spurs. Tottenham have now submitted, Barca have not responded to the proposal. 30 million is quite a high price. He's obviously a 20-year-old playing right now for Barcelona. He's actually made 20 appearances this season. For
Girona, exactly.
For Girona, and having a really good season. Is this one you expect that Tottenham are serious about? Because obviously we're looking at the next generation of talents at the moment.
And there's like Barca say this, there's a lot of people at Barca like Xavi and stuff who say this is the next Pedri. But I think the more interesting thing is that we're in for these types of deals where we're not going in the market. I think so many fans want us to go out there and just get, like myself included, just go out there and just get a 50, 60 million pound player who is the difference, who's a world-class talent who could take the game by the scruff of the neck. But that doesn't seem what our scouting strategy is. It is go and find the potential youth who could be that player. So get them cheap and then they become the 100 million player. But there's a huge risk ratio going on right there because it worked brilliantly with Pape, but it took 3 years for it to work with Pape. So 30 million for a player who does he come in straight away?
Well, at 20 years of age, you'd probably think he would come to the first team at that age.
He'd be in the squad for sure.
You look at the players we have at the moment playing at Doggy, as you say, Sarr. They're all Van de Ven even. Yeah. They're around that age, and they're in the first team, and they're being trusted. The problem is, though, you got Bergvall coming. Is he going to be part of the first team?
So look at the makeup of the types of players they're going for. Like these are like highly technical players, workhorses as well who fight. So technical like fighters who you can imagine playing in the eights. I don't see any of them as he's in a central attacking midfielder as well. So it's interesting that we're looking at these types of technical whiz kids. The next you think of Pedri, of course you'd love to have a player like that. So, but it's just whether or not. I mean, there's a bit of smoke there. It's a rumor that's kind of been going around for the last couple of days. But 30 million for a 20-year-old who's not really broken through.
Shemtan says, sounds like another Brian Hill. I hope it's not. I hope it's not that bad.
Because he comes from Barca's academy, I think he's way highly rated, And the fact is that he is in Girona and he is actually having a great time in Serie A. So
maybe one to keep an eye on, but very interesting because I don't think we'd sign Conor Gallagher for 40 and then sign him for 30 as well. I mean, I'd be very surprised if that was the case. Next up, a story from Ali Gold. This is about Tosin Adarabioyo, and he says Spurs are expected to step up their interest in Fulham's Tosin Adarabioyo ahead of a potential move at the end of this contract in June. Tosin is understood to be open to joining Tottenham, which is quite interesting considering last summer the pretty much his unwillingness to come to Spurs seemed to be the only thing that was holding up the deal, because it seemed as though Fulham were ready to take the money from Tottenham, but he wanted to join Monaco and didn't want to join Tottenham. I've been very impressed with him this season. I think he was injured up until like January. He came back on the team and Fulham have really improved since he's come back into the team. I think he's now 26 years of age, Tosin. He is kind of predominantly a right-sided centre-back, but I have seen him play on the left before. I understand Spurs, the main interest from him is just because it's a free transfer. I'm guessing it's probably too good to turn down. Yeah. But he is a good player and he probably would fit in at Spurs. So how do you assess this kind of deal? Because you would think Spurs would probably look to sign a left-sided centre-back or left-footed centre-back, considering we have Dragoshin there now. So would Tosin be the kind of defender we should be looking at in terms of to help improve our squad or the squad depth?
I think it's like if you can get a player of his quality and his ceiling on a free, I think that does become a little bit too hard. You're going to turn that away just because he's not a left-sided player. I think his quality coming into that squad, he could push on the right side and maybe the left side. He's aerially dominant. We don't have a player who really wins every duel in the air like he does. So I think he is a good player, and I can imagine that he was looking at last season and going, I'm a starter. I want to go push, and play every game. Especially if he was coming back from injury, he felt like I don't want to go somewhere and sit on the bench for a while. So you can totally understand why wasn't feeling Tottenham. But you've seen posts from him before saying how good are this Tottenham team and stuff. So I think if we can get him. We wanted him before. We were after him. Just get him.
You think he's that level? You think
he improves the squad. You're going to play a lot more games. I think him and Drakusin at the back is not a bad little pairing.
It's not a bad backup, but if I could get let's say an Nketiah, I know it would be a lot more money.
Yeah,
but.
You're talking about free or how
because
Nketiah
Nketiah is probably going to be upwards of 50-60 million, I would say. Yeah. But the thing is, Nketiah, he can also play at left back potentially and centre back. So there's two backups covered there.
But if you can save that 60 million and then spend that on other areas and get Tosin in, a quality of him in, and then go and spend that 60 million on 230s or just a 60 million player,
Maybe it's worth it. I can understand the temptation to do that. Just get a backup centre back in. You get him for free. You got a good quality on there, and then you can really invest in other areas like
especially as this scouting team's looking through its targets. And obviously, if it was your target last, it doesn't mean it stops being your target. And if all of a sudden, that was the risk. It was like put an offer in for him. Or wait and see the deal run out and then get him. So I would say I would be shocked if they aren't just trying to negotiate that deal right now. Just get him in. It'll just be the players what he wants.
Be interesting to see if that ends up happening, because I think other clubs could definitely offer him a starting space more than Tottenham. Obviously, with Romero, Van de Ven there, it's not going to be easy for him to be starting. But as you saw this season, Romero's suspensions, Van de Ven picked up injuries. There's going to be, and also we're going to have more games next season, so it definitely will be game time for him.
Ample opportunity. He'll probably easily get 25 plus games.
Be interesting to see how that one plays out. A number of clubs will report to be interested. And the last story we're going to be talking about is Pape Matar Sarr. And this is quite an interesting story, reporting from Ali Gold. He was thought to have been for next season, because this next season will be his third year at the club. The assumption was that next season he will then go into the homegrown category, because you'd have to be trained by the club for 3 years to count as homegrown. But according to Ali Gold, that is not going to be the case, because apparently the rules state that you have to have been 3 years at the club before the age of 18. Now, obviously, he joined the club at 18 and went out on loan, and he did join, and he was put as an under 21 as a club player while he was out on loan, and that was thought to be sufficient enough to count as him being trained at the club before he's 18, and so next season he'll count as homegrown. But apparently, because he's not an EU player, and because of that, he actually didn't have the right to work in the UK. That meant that those years doesn't count as towards being trained at the club, which means actually next year he's not going to count as homegrown. He's going to have to go into the non-homegrown category, which is a bit frustrating considering Spurs have had their issues now with the homegrown quotas and all these different things in terms of meeting those specifications in squad depth. So that means the hope that he would be homegrown for next season isn't going to materialise, and that means maybe it's going to heighten the need to dip into that homegrown market for next season. It's frustrating.
You're saying Conor Gallagher now looks...
that could be another reason why someone like Gallagher is obviously more of needed. Obviously, we're going to look for more English players. I don't know, on the market, English players, obviously, they do command premium. And obviously, English players that we need. There's obviously someone like Eze, but he's going to be a big fee. Gibbs White. Maybe those are the kind of players we might start looking for.
If Forest go down, they might have to sell Gibbs White for around the same as Madison, 35, 40, and then just grab that.
Yeah, but it's obviously not a position you want to be in, because it shortens your pool of players, and that will obviously drive the price up of that pool of players, because they know you're looking for those kind of players. So remains to be seen how we kind of go about that for next year. Let's hope. Well, Ange says he was commented on his post-match, pre-match press conference, said they feel comfortable about the situation they're in that aspect. So he doesn't seem worried about it. But in terms of the numbers of what and the quota, we don't seem to be in the best position. So it'll be
Does that
interesting.
help Skippy then? In terms
Potentially, but
I know he's asked about it.
he was saying it doesn't. For him, it doesn't hold too much of a bearing. But in theory, it should give him more of a value to the squad. The fact he's homegrown. But if you're only in the squad because you're homegrown, that's not a position you kind of want to be in. But look, that is your Tottenham update. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of all the stories we talked about today.